Well, on to our fifth and final story of the program. French Prime Minister Manuel Valls says the government will not back down on its controversial labor reforms, which have sparked violent protests and strikes across the country. Valls said the government cannot impose a general ban on demonstrations, but it can no longer have things getting out of control. He also urged the country's General Confederation of Labour to stop organizing mass rallies in the capital, Paris. France has been the scene of a series of demonstrations and walkouts over the past months. The government says the labor reforms will curb unemployment. Protesters and workers' unions, however, say that the reforms will make it easier for employers to lay off workers. Labor unions have pledged to continue nationwide strikes and rallies throughout the Euro 2016 football tournament. Political analyst Gearóid Ó Colmáin joins us now from the French capital, Paris, to offer us more insight on the situation there. So welcome to the program. It seems that even after yesterday's massive demonstrations that took place in Paris, the government is still adamant on its labor code reforms.
Sure. It does look like they're determined to see this through. There are many different aspects to this we could discuss. First of all, the mass mobilization of workers is throughout France, so you have it right throughout the country. There's up to 1 million people on the streets. At the same time, of course, you have the Euro Championship games. There's been a lot of violence there as well. It's contributing to a sort of sense of tension in many cities. Then you have the terrorist attacks, which came on June 13th when 2 police officers were assassinated. That, of course, has reopened the debate about how well armed and prepared the police are for terrorism and for the social unrest and so on. We should also point out that the police were caught breaking into shops last week. They were caught on camera. This was admitted by the leader of the left-wing opposition coalition on the gauche, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, on French TV. That was most likely orchestrated by the Ministry of the Interior. So what we're seeing now is an increase of these terrorist-style attacks by people in black hoodies. They're known as black box. These are notorious state agents, agents provocateurs, kind of people who turn up to demonstrations and wreck everything. There is no way that those who are organizing these strikes would have sanctioned, for example, the attack on the Necker hospital recently. It was the kind of attack that we see being perpetrated by forces supported by the French government. For example, in Syria, the Syrian rebels regularly attack doctors and hospitals. But this is being used now by Manuel Valls, by the French government, as a pretext to crack down on the protests and attempt to stop them. The protests are really hurting the ruling class. This is costing a lot of money for very powerful people in France, and they want an end to it. And so you're going to see more and more violence. I don't think that violence is coming from anyone who's genuinely protesting. It's coming from forces who want this to fail and who want to see it discredited.
Thank you very much. Political analyst Gearóid Ó Colmáin joining us from the French capital, Paris. And that brings us to an end here on this edition of Press TV.